We keep hearing back from you that our season 17 announcement has really hit a chord. If you missed it, here is our invitation. The women this show was originally created for 17 years ago, KSL had those women in mind, they're now becoming grandmas and Gigi's and Nanas. And we want to celebrate that and really focus in on all the magic that relationship holds. So I'm excited to announce a brand new Studio 5 series for season 17. It's called Nanahood, as in Nanahood, the second chapter of motherhood. Yes, please applaud that. Yes. You seem eager for the relationship tools, activities, and creative ideas that we plan to share as part of this series. And as I mentioned, the feedback just keeps pouring in. We've heard enthusiastic responses like, 17 years ago, I was raising kids and watching your show. Now I'm a nana, or as my grandson calls me, Nama. Still watching your show. Sally, thank you for that. Linda saying it's just what she needs. Debbie affirming it's the best gig in town. She's been in the Nanahood for 19 years now and calls it her greatest joy. Jean saying this type of content, this type of conversation is so needed. And I was particularly touched by that one in the middle right. I was just watching the show this morning. When you announced this series, my heart exploded with joy and tears rolled down my cheeks. Here's the thing. We hear you and we're so excited with you. It's time to celebrate the Nanahood. And today we officially kick off this Nanahood series with the big picture about grandparenting. You know you love this role. It's the reward, right, of raising your own children. Studio 5 parenting contributor Heather Johnson is joining me with the shared truths of Nanahood. I have chills just reading those reactions, and I've read every email that comes in, every direct message on Instagram as well. Women are so thrilled about this role and this chapter in life, and for good reason. And we can speak from both sides of it. I mean, you had a grandma I know that influenced you significantly.
Absolutely. In fact, both of my sets of grandparents, but both of my grandmas did. And now I think what's also amazing is to watch my mom be a grandma.
Yes.
Which has an unbelievable impact. And there's so many things, you know, when I think about the things that they taught or I learned from them. I just recently lost my last grandma. I look at the things like knowing how to make caramel corn, or, man, if you have a pair of nylons or pantyhose that you need fixed, I'm your girl, right? All things that I learned from my grandmas. But I also look at the values that they lived. I look at the patience, I look at the grit, I look at the determination, the love, the long suffering, goodness, the forgiveness. Those are things that I learned from my grandmas.
Yes.
And so I love that. In fact, I mean, even talking about it, we'll be lucky to get through today.
I know it's hard. It brings up so many strong emotions and so many strong feelings. And when I think of my grandma, and this isn't just a line, I go to that velvet rocker, the warmth, you know what I mean? The comfort. Here we go. I'm not going to be any help to you today. Let's dive into these shared truths of Nanahood. And you say it starts, we'll kind of square and shore up and point to the research. There are huge benefits to children who have grandparents in their lives.
There's huge benefits, and there's no way around this. The research shows what it shows. We tend to think as parents that if we have a great relationship with our kids, then there might not be as much need for grandparents, for a grandma. And that's not true. Even in homes where parents and children have a great, healthy, strong, solid relationship, there are still extra benefits from having a grandma or grandparents around. So that is a shared truth we want to grab onto. We want to recognize, great, that is awesome that we have good relationships with our kids. And they also benefit from grandmas.
And it's not just that parents should want this because of that research. Parents really do want this. Parents want grandparents to be involved and to be part.
They do. Grown kids or grown children want their children to have relationships with grandparents. Now, this can be a tricky one, right? Not everyone has these relationships. And if you have a strained relationship with your parents, it can be hard to let them in to work with, be with your children.
And I'm so glad you acknowledge that, because that's real, right? That's a real truth as well, that this dynamic can be layered and it can be complicated.
It is. There's a lot to these relationships, but recognizing that even if they're strained, what we ultimately still want as grown children is for our kids to have relationships with our parents and with hopefully our spouse's parents too, which is a whole nother ballgame. These are shared truths. We want these things. The beautiful thing about seeing the research support this is that it should help us take a step back and do whatever we can to heal, mend, work through the relationships so that grandparents and grandchildren can have relationships together.
You know what I'm thinking about, Heather? I'm thinking about a situation of divorce where we're saying, you know, mom, dad are no longer together, but please work together on the same page for the benefit of those kids. Does that same, I mean, in a stretch of a way, does that same fact apply to the grandparenting situation? Like I'm hearing you say, heal the relationship best you can for the sake of the grandkids.
Absolutely. And for those grandparents, do whatever you can do. Forgive, love again, put things aside, give the benefit of the doubt, do whatever it takes so that these relationships can be here. We have a responsibility, right? There are ways too that grandparents can connect with kids that we can't as parents. We can't, and they can. You know, I look at even when I was in college, I went away to college, and so I didn't have my family close, but I did have my grandparents about an hour away. And even thinking about those weekends where I would jump in the car and I would drive an hour and I would sit at their kitchen counter, I can see it, and my grandma and I would chat. Or I'd go with her to get her hair done and we'd chat some more. Or I would watch her fix and mend and do whatever she was going to do. I watch now as our kids, if they're late coming home from school, I know exactly where they've gone. They've gone to connect with their grandma and grandpa. They have sided up with my mom. She has fed them something and they are chatting about the boys that they like or the struggles that they're having in algebra. They're chatting. They can connect. Remember, grandparents don't have to worry about anything but loving. They just have to worry about loving.
And somehow kids feel that, right? You joke about the boys that you like. I remember telling my grandma things that I would never tell my mom. I mean, I could tell my mom, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna tell grandma. I mean, kids feel that unique difference as well.
They absolutely do. I remember when I brought my husband home to meet my family and him meeting both of my grandmas and them pulling me aside to give me the thumbs up that those things had been good, and them knowing at the same time as my parents did. It's just being able to connect in ways without discipline, without worrying about the future the same way, without any expectations. You just get to connect.
And that thumbs up mattered to you.
Absolutely.
It was significant.
Absolutely it did.
Here's another shared truth of Nanahood. Grandmas want to be included.
They do. They want to be included. This falls to us also, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but this need they have or desire they have to be included, this means they want to know what's going on. They hope that we'll invite them. You know, they're praying for, worrying about, thinking through what our kids are doing. They're spending their days and their mind is running, worried about these grandchildren. We want to include them. Now, grandparenting and being a nana now looks different than it used to. They are more active. They're engaged in community service. They're still working oftentimes. And so with the inclusion also means we want to give them space to be able to say no. They want to know that they're included. They want to know that they're always welcome and invited. And also that if there's a conflict, they can say no without any repercussions, that there's not expectations put on them, just invitation, that we invite without expecting.
That's so important. And as we talk about this inclusion piece, you know, we acknowledged when we announced the series that while grandparents and grandmas have influence, they don't always have control. And I mentioned I've read every message that has come in, and I have. And there's been a significant portion of women who have said, I would love to fulfill this role in a more full way, right? And there's been reference to, you know, daughters-in-law who well-meaning and are trying, but these grandmas find themselves feeling on the outside. Talk a little bit, if you can, Heather, to the importance of that gatekeeping as parents. What is our role in this?
Our responsibility is to do everything we can to keep the gate open. We hold the key to that. I get to decide the connection that our kids can have with their grandparents, meaning I can put up blockers or keep that gate closed, and it will make it very hard for our kids to have that relationship. When they say, can I call grandma? Yes. Could we invite her? Absolutely. Can I call and tell her about this? Of course you can. When she comes over, instead of our children hearing critical words come out of my mouth, or she doesn't do it right, or she doesn't know, them hearing words from me that honor and respect, that they have wisdom and experience that I don't have. We're the gatekeeper there. We get to decide what this relationship has the potential to become. And grandmas hope that we will keep that gate wide open.
Let's end on this truth and hope the tissues are close. Grandmas hope their lives have not been in vain.
Yeah, they do. They hope that all the sacrifice and the experiences and the wisdom that we will grab onto it and allow it to be a part of our children's lives, and ours too, but a part of their grandchildren's lives. Remember, it doesn't matter how much I have or the tools that I have to love and be with our children. I haven't lived as long as my grandmas have. I haven't seen as much. I haven't gone through enough. They have wisdom and experience. We want to honor that. And we do it by letting them teach. You know, sometimes this is tricky because they do it different. Maybe they do it old school.
Sure.
Maybe the way they go about it, you know, they don't know the newest up-to-date things. Like I know one right now is babies need to be put on their back. They can't lay on their stomachs anymore. They might not know those things, but if we will step back, we will realize that there is nuggets of wisdom, regardless of your relationship with these women, that will benefit your children. We want to look for it so that all they've sacrificed is never in vain, that our kids can learn from it, that they can grow from it and connect with it.
The shared truths of Nanahood. You were the perfect person to kick off this series for us. Thank you so much. And honestly, as I consider this emotion that we're sitting here trying to control for the sake of television, I do find myself thinking it's tender not just because some are gone, but it's tender because of how they lived. And I think that's valuable. And we're so excited to celebrate this despite our tears. We're so excited about this Nanahood series. We really are. It'll take on a lot of different forms and emotions over the coming season. Heather, thank you so much. Heather's contact information is always posted for you on the Studio 5 website.